The whole country was shocked when Rick Harrison, a famous actor from the TV show Pawn Stars, suddenly went to court and admitted to a long list of crimes that he had been avoiding or keeping quiet about for years. He told shocking stories about shady business dealings and relationships behind the scenes that made his image look like it could never fall. So why did a one-sonored person choose to face the truth so bravely? Let's talk about the crimes that Rick Harrison admitted to and why the public was shocked by his confession music. Soon after Rick Harrison's shocking confession, the investigation took a real turn. Federal agents started to focus on the pawn shop's secret basement, an area that had been off limits to the public for a long time. It was here that the horrifying truth started to come out. The basement wasn't just a private part of the shop. It was the center of a large-scale human trafficking operation. Children were held captive, their identities erased, and their lives completely controlled before they were sold to criminal networks. The basement was a living nightmare, with dark rooms used as cells and basic surveillance systems coexisting with the pawn shop's real appearance. When the FBI found this underground prison, the investigation became more intense and aggressive. Agents quickly moved to secure the scene and rescue the children, but while they were searching, they found much more: a huge collection of financial documents. The documents included conversations and other proof that could help reveal the whole criminal network behind Rick Harrison. They showed that the group wasn't just from the local area, but also included powerful people like business owners and government officials. The FBI quickly realized that this wasn't a small operation, but a complex global network with many connections and a strict security system. The investigation quickly grew, and they teamed up with law enforcement agencies in Mexico, Central America, and Southeast Asia to find the people involved. What they found was horrifying: an organization that had been running for years, smuggling children across borders and selling them to anyone who would pay. This organization also dealt in stolen antiquities, drugs, and even weapons. The team started to focus on the money by tracking international wire transfers, shell companies, and offshore entities. This is how money from trafficking in children and antiquities was cleaned and used again. Accountants worked hard to follow every financial transaction and eventually connected Harrison's pawn shop to the whole underground human trafficking network. Another shocking discovery was that the group used social media and online platforms. They set up illegal sites that looked like legitimate businesses and mostly did business on the dark web. Encryption and anonymization tools let the group hide in plain sight, and the FBI had to work with cybersecurity experts to take them down these platforms one by one, which was a hard and complicated process. As the investigation went on, the FBI started to make key arrests. The real leaders of the organization are still at large and working in secret. The search for them and their capture will continue, but the first arrests have sent a clear message: this network is not unbeatable. One of the hardest parts is taking care of the victims, especially the kids who were rescued from the basement. Many of them have been through a lot of trauma and have lost trust. Everyone, including the people who saved them, has been helped by the FBI work with psychologists, social workers, and rehabilitation specialists to get the kids back to normal life. The investigation into Rick Harrison's pawn shop and the global human trafficking ring that ran out of it has become one of the most complicated and shocking cases in FBI history. It has revealed a global criminal network that includes people from all walks of life. As the investigation went on, the FBI found shocking evidence of the dangers of organized crime networks that are hard to spot, but are always looking for ways to take advantage of weak people for their own gain. For victims, like children who have been rescued and families who have lost loved ones, the FBI work has been a rare ray of hope in the darkness. But the road to justice is long, and the full scope of this criminal network's activities has yet to be revealed. The case involving Rick Harrison's pawn shop is just the tip of the iceberg of a global problem that has been kept secret for too long. The FBI is still working to bring justice to the victims, and the road ahead is full of challenges. But one thing is for sure. The group that used Rick Harrison's pawn shop as a front has now been exposed, and authorities are determined to break down this network one link at a time. When news came out that the FBI had found an underground prison under the pawn shop, people were shocked. It was hard to imagine that Rick Harrison, who was on the History Channel's Pawn Stars show and had worked there for more than 10 years, could be involved in such a cruel and evil business. To TV viewers, Harrison was a friendly, trustworthy businessman who had built his career on hard work and personal charm. But now, that image had been completely turned upside down. A man who was once liked was accused of being involved in one of the worst crimes, which shocked many. The biggest surprise was the discovery of more than 300 children in the pawn shop basement. Many of them were from as far away as Southeast Asia and Central America. It was hard to believe that a place famous for reality TV could be used to hide such horrible crimes. The public lost faith in Rick Harrison almost right away. In the hours and days that followed, the news media around the world kept reporting on the incident, giving shocking details. Reporters also looked into Harrison's finances. Harrison had been a beloved TV character for years, but now he was a suspect. Serious accusations had ruined the image he had worked so hard to build. But it wasn't just the media that reacted. The whole country was deeply affected. The online community exploded with a range of reactions, from doubt to anger to disappointment. The hashtag ##MipenStar quickly became popular, reflecting the frustration of millions of fans of the show. For some, what happened was a wake-up call that looks can be deceiving, and that people you trust aren't always what they seem to be. Many Pawn Stars fans felt cheated after watching the show for years. This was especially true for fans who had seen every episode, seen every antique being bought and sold, and thought of the pawn shop as a Las Vegas cultural icon. It was hard to believe that the same place that used to be fun and funny was now the site of a large-scale crime. As the investigation went on, more information came out that made people feel even more betrayed. According to law enforcement sources, Rick Harrison was involved in a long-term child trafficking operation, and his pawn shop was used by the criminal network as a way to hide children and launder money. It's not clear if Harrison was directly involved in the kidnappings, but the evidence suggests that he was a key figure in protecting and facilitating the operation. The fact that a real business like Rick's pawn shop could be used for such a horrible purpose makes the case even more unbelievable and shocking. People were not only angry, they were scared. How could this have gone on for so long without being caught? How could someone who seemed nice and trustworthy on TV hide such a dark secret? This is not just one person's wrongdoing, it's part of a bigger problem. Human trafficking happens in the shadows, right in the middle of society, and is often in the weeks that followed. People put more and more pressure on the government to act quickly and decisively. There were calls for tighter regulation of pawn shops, and some people wondered if the industry was turning into a spot where criminals could work without being caught. Lawmakers started to look more closely at the pawn industry, pushing for stricter rules on businesses that deal with large amounts of cash and valuables. Some even want pawn shops to have to report all transactions to the police, which would make things even safer. Criminal networks find it harder to use them as fronts for illegal activities. At the same time, Rick Harrison's lawyers worked hard to deal with the growing fallout. Harrison is now facing multiple charges, including money laundering, human trafficking, and conspiracy to sell stolen artifacts. If he is found guilty, he could spend decades in prison. The proceedings moved slowly while investigators continued to gather evidence and build their case. The pressure on Harrison grew with each new revelation, adding weight to the case. People are wondering if Rick Harrison can make things right with the public and rebuild his reputation, Or will he always be linked to the horrible crimes that were found in the pawn shop? At first, it looked like Harrison would never get over the scandal. His reputation was badly hurt, and people didn't trust him. But as the investigation went on, some people started to wonder if Harrison was really involved in the trafficking operation or if he was just a pawn in a bigger crime. While the evidence points to Harrison's part in helping trafficking victims get from one place to another, many questions still remain. Did he know the full scope of the operation, or was he drawn in by the dark web? Was Harrison an active participant in the crimes, or was he just a businessman who was used as a front for a human trafficking organization? As the legal proceedings continue, one thing is clear: this case is far from over. People are shocked by what happened at Harrison's pawn shop, and the effects will likely last for years to come. The public's response has been swift and unforgiving, but the legal process will be key in determining whether Harrison will be held accountable for his alleged crimes. For victims of human trafficking, the road to recovery has only just begun. Many have been rescued and are getting the care and support they need, but the investigation is still going on, and the fight to break up the trafficking networks is still going on. The masterminds to justice is still going on. The world is watching this case not just because of Rick Harrison, but because it is part of a global fight to end human trafficking. The story of a man who used to be on TV has taken a very different turn. Harrison's reputation has been ruined, but so have the lives of many innocent children. Now that their voices have been heard, the public is hopeful that justice will be done. The investigation is not over, and the people are still waiting for answers about Rick Harrison's shocking underground prison found under his pawn shop. After the shock, everyone quickly turned their attention to the next big story, the court case that would decide the future of a former TV star. Law enforcement and the media were watching. This was no longer a personal case. It was a test of how the legal system would handle serious charges like human trafficking, money laundering, and organized crime. Since the initial shock, Rick Harrison's lawyers have been hard at work building a defense against the overwhelming evidence from the FBI. Since Harrison was arrested, he has been facing serious criminal charges, including being involved in a transnational network that exploited and sold children across borders. He is also accused of money laundering and plotting to help sell stolen artifacts. These charges not only threaten his freedom, but they also put an end to the Harrison could spend decades in prison if he is found guilty. Harrison's defense team's legal strategy is based on two main points: denial and mitigation. They say that Rick Harrison had no idea that there was an underground prison under the pawn shop. Instead, they say that he was a victim who was caught up in a large-scale criminal plot without knowing it. They paint Harrison as a dedicated businessman who built his company through hard work and dedication. The defense says there isn't enough direct evidence that Harrison knew about the crimes. They say the strange financial transactions the FBI found were normal for a pawn shop, and that Harrison's handling of stolen goods was because he didn't know where the goods came from. The prosecution, on the other hand, wasn't convinced. They showed a lot of financial and digital evidence that showed Harrison not only knew about the trafficking ring, but was also directly involved with it. Payments from suspected traffickers, email exchanges, phone records, and surveillance video were all shown in court as evidence that Harrison knew he was using the pawn shop as a middleman to launder money for organized crime. The testimony of rescued victims and former members of the trafficking ring was especially strong. They said Harrison not only knew about the operation, but was also directly involved in moving children and dealing with traffickers. Rick Harrison said he wasn't guilty because he didn't know the whole story about what was going on in his home. His lawyers said their client was an honest businessman who had been ripped off, and that the government had gone too far by charging him with things for which there was no direct evidence. As the trial got closer, the media went crazy. People had a lot of different opinions. Some thought Rick Harrison was just a victim of a bigger plot and an unwitting pawn in an international criminal game. But many others were angry and hurt that a well-liked TV personality could be involved in such horrible crimes. The courthouse became a national attraction, with reporters there 24 hours a day to cover every new development in the case. Millions of people watched every hearing, and while the legal system continues to find out what really happened, everyone is waiting for one thing: will Rick Harrison be found not guilty or given a harsh sentence that ends a dark chapter in American TV and music history? The trial did not have the effect that was expected. Rick Harrison's personal life had far-reaching effects on the entire pawn shop industry. The scandal showed serious problems with how pawn shops are managed and run in an industry that operates in the gray area of the cash business. Right away, there were calls for stricter rules and more oversight to stop places like Harrison's pawn shop from being used as fronts for illegal activities. Many people started to wonder if an industry that deals with such large amounts of cash and valuable items should be regulated at all. From reality TV star to the main character in a shocking case, Rick Harrison's life has been full of changes that have shocked people. To a global audience, he is known as Rick Harrison, the sharp, experienced father of the hit show about a pawn shop in Las Vegas. The show was not only an entertainment phenomenon, but it also introduced millions of people to the world of antiques, where every item has a story and interesting historical value. Rick appeared with his flannel shirt, wire-rimmed glasses, and calm demeanor. He seemed like an ordinary man among famous people, but behind that sweet smile and great negotiating skills, there was a dark side that had never been shown. If people had known about it early on, they would not have guessed that it was Rick Harrison. 10 years ago, anyone would have said he was the perfect example of success, the American dream come true, a man who started from nothing and worked hard. At its peak, Pawn Stars was the show that made a small pawn shop in Nevada a globally famous destination. Harrison was a businessman, a celebrity, and a reality TV star, and the public thought he was almost unreplaceable. But everything we thought we knew about him turned out to be a carefully constructed image. Behind that fame were secrets, transgressions, and layers of lies. Years later, the truth came out bit by bit, and it was very different from what people thought. Harrison had made millions of dollars. Off of deals in front of the cameras, was now accused of planning the murder of a key witness, who was thought to have important evidence about Harrison's illegal activities. This wasn't a business rivalry or a personal feud. It was a life or death fight to protect the empire he had built, and he is said to have done horrible things to keep the truth from coming out. In a shocking confession, Harrison admitted that he had bought a woman as a human being. $100. This simple but haunting statement made people wonder what kind of person the world used to trust could hide such actions behind the image of a friendly father and a beloved star. As more information came out, those who used to look up to him had to face the truth. The man they trusted had a darker side than anyone could have imagined. As the investigation went deeper, more shocking facts came to light. Rick Harrison wasn't just a businessman, was a man who did everything morally and legally possible to protect his empire. He built a beautiful story of success while making deals that could drag him into permanent darkness. This is not only the story of a famous person who fell from grace, but also a lesson in the dark side of fame, money, and power, and how they can cloud your conscience and make you trade the truth for something else. It's also the story of how a man can win the trust of millions of people only to betray them all with shocking secrets. Harrison's rise to power will clear up the murder charges and bring to light the shocking testimony that will paint a clearer picture of the whole situation. We will also look back at how he cheated the system to hide his crimes and used his fame to avoid punishment. This is not just the fall of a man, but also the fall of a beloved public figure. An empire that seemed perfect but was built on lies, and when the truth comes out, it's darker than anyone could have imagined. We use court documents, insider accounts, and a reconstructed timeline of events to piece together Rick Harrison's terrifying rise from beloved TV star to the center of a criminal nightmare. Follow along as the untold story of Rick Harrison and his pawn shop empire unfolds piece by piece until it all comes crashing down music. Rick Harrison wasn't always the famous person that his millions of fans know him as today. Like many success stories, his rise to fame and wealth was made possible by luck. Born in 1965 in Las Vegas, Nevada, Rick grew up in a city where fortunes could change overnight. This unique background had a big impact on his life. Coming from a military family, Rick didn't have a privileged upbringing. His father, Richard Benjamin Harrison Jr., a Navy veteran, ran a struggling pawn shop. From a young age, Rick saw how buying, selling, and negotiating worked by watching the business. But like many teenagers, he didn't understand much about it. Rick didn't want to work for the family business. He wanted to do something bigger. He even dropped out of high school, not knowing that his fate would be tied to a job he didn't care about. When Rick decided to go into business, he and his father opened the gold and silver pawn shop. But success wasn't easy. Rick had little experience and no formal training, but he had a strong work ethic and an eye for detail that not everyone has. Rick learned how to value things and talk to customers in a polite and effective way by watching his father work for years. Even though his first attempts didn't go very well, Rick didn't give up. Eventually, the small pawn shop in Las Vegas started to make a profit, but it was running at a low level for a long time and was often in danger of closing. Those tough times tested Rick's determination and love for his job. Finally, in 2009, a big change happened. When Pawn Stars was created, at the time, reality TV was booming with shows about strange jobs and characters. A show about a pawn shop might not sound like much, but it was the real people behind the counter with their unique personalities that made it special. The idea was simple: follow the daily operations of a pawn shop and record the interesting deals and unique items. The show featured 3 generations of the Harrison family, including Rick Harrison, his wise but straightforward father. There was a great mix of personalities and generations in Richard Old Man Harrison and his son Corey Harrison, who was affectionately known as Big Horse. Rick has a calm and businesslike personality, while Corey is very young and funny. When Pawn Stars first aired on the History Channel, it quickly became a hit. People were interested in more than just the antiques. They were also interested in the family relationships and the dramatic, intense negotiations. No one thought that the show, which was created to promote a Rick Harrison's whole life, could be changed by a small business. What started out as a local pawn shop quickly turned into a place where people from all over the world waited in line to meet real-life TV stars. This was the start of a whole new chapter in Rick's life. The success of Pawn Stars opened up a lot of doors for him. He went from being a small-time pawnbroker to a multimillionaire who had to go to public events and talk shows to get attention. In the spotlight, Rick Harrison's face was on billboards, magazine covers, and TV screens everywhere. He became a symbol of success and a role model for millions of people. But with the fame came a lot of pressure to keep up appearances, keep up a good reputation, and make sure everything looked perfect. While he kept negotiating deals in front of the cameras, there was a darker, more complicated part of his life that would forever change the way people saw him. There was a public image of Rick Harrison as a musician, but behind the scenes, Rick Harrison's life was anything but perfect. As his fame grew, Rick's personal life started to get out of hand. The stresses of being a celebrity and running a growing business empire slowly started to wear him down from the inside. While the show rarely showed Rick's private life, it was clear that there was more going on. Family tensions started to rise despite the happy atmosphere that viewers saw. Rick struggled to balance work and fatherhood as a TV star and businessman, and his failed marriage made things even harder. But in public, Rick kept up an image of a trustworthy, hardworking, and smart man, an icon adored by millions of fans. But behind the calmness of his on-air dealings, Rick was said to have hidden a much darker truth. As he smiled and greeted guests on camera, plans were allegedly being made in real life that would forever change the course of his life and career. What the public knew was only the surface of a deeper story that was allegedly built on manipulation, lies, and serious criminal behavior. The image of a beloved TV star who seemed to have achieved the American dream was said to be a carefully crafted mask. Over time, the mask began to crack, revealing the real person underneath, someone who was willing to do anything to protect what he had built. The American dream is often described as people usually think of success as the result of hard work, honesty, and a little luck. But for Rick Harrison, the road to fame seemed much more complicated. To the public, he was the perfect businessman, a smart negotiator who turned a small pawn shop in Las Vegas into a multi-million-dollar brand. But what if that was only part of the story? What if his rise was caused by choices and actions that seemed out of the ordinary? Rick Harrison has long been known as a TV icon with a great eye for valuing antiques and pop culture items. Fans may be interested in the valuables, but what they don't know is that there is a dangerous underworld behind the deals. There are rumors that the valuables aren't always what they seem to be, and that some deals happen behind closed doors out of sight of the public. Gold and silver pawn is said to be more than just a place to buy and sell assets. There are rumors that it's connected to underground networks that handle illegal goods. Buying and selling valuables like antiques, jewelry, and rare works of art without permission is easy in Las Vegas, a city known for its high stakes and love of money. Pawn shops are a great place to hide transactions, and one of the scariest claims against Rick Harrison is that he helped launder money. Pawn shops are a great way to hide illegal profits by selling goods legally. According to some sources, the buying and selling of goods here is sometimes used to hide money flows that come from illegal activities. Sources that don't want to be named because Rick is famous. He is said to have easy access to people and networks willing to make big deals without getting caught. Rick Harrison is said to have built an empire that relied on both formal business operations and secret financial channels behind the scenes. What viewers see is just the tip of the iceberg. Below is a complicated world run by rules that only insiders understand. The story of Rick Harrison is not only the journey of a successful businessman and a reminder that behind every great success can be a contradictory or even dark reality. Audiences only start to discover this reality when secrets can't be kept forever. Music. But the real risks start to show as more and more people learn about Rick Harrison's shady dealings. As Pawn Stars becomes more popular, the operation behind the scenes gets bigger, which brings in more people. But with more people, there's a greater chance that information will get out, and eventually someone will. Break the silence and everything will change. That person is not a stranger. They are a witness who has been with Harrison as he builds his empire. They have information that can blow away the cover that has been carefully built over the years. As Rick Harrison's fame grows from pawn shop owner to national TV star, the pressure to keep things under control rises. His world is no longer the small space of family and work, but a public stage where everyone is watching. The more people who see Harrison, the more careful he has to be. As more people in the know about the behind-the-scenes story, Harrison knows it's only a matter of time before someone comes forward with the truth. To protect what he's built, he's willing to do anything. There are claims that an extreme act was planned to stop a key figure from speaking out. Rick Harrison was once seen as an untouchable icon, a TV star, a model businessman, and a loving father on the small screen. Harrison's rise wasn't just due to hard work and business sense. He also knew how to use his position to build a network of interests behind him. The activities in question don't happen in front of the cameras. They happen behind the scenes where deals, money, and power are intertwined. Rick Harrison is no longer just a pawnbroker. He is the center of a structure more complex than that. Behind all the flashy developments, there is one person who knows it all. Someone who has been close enough to see what goes on, from the strange deals to the complex money laundering schemes. This person holds the key to the whole picture behind the scenes, and if they speak out, everything Harrison has worked so hard to build will be in grave danger. While their identity and specific goals are still unknown, their existence is a clear indication of what is going on. Threat, they don't know if the truth will come out or not. Harrison knows that if the truth comes out, it will not only hurt his reputation, but also the reputations of many other people and businesses. As witnesses quietly gather evidence, they learn that this isn't just a pawn shop story, but a web of power struggles and competing interests. If it all comes to light, it won't just end an empire, it will change how people see things. The people who were involved say that Rick Harrison planned to stop a witness from testifying. The plan was said to be simple but chillingly cold. He wanted to get rid of a possible threat to his whole empire before it had a chance to show itself. It was a cruel move to keep secrets that should never have been revealed. What shocked people was that this theory, as shocking as it was, didn't completely go against what many people knew about Harrison. Harrison was a shady businessman who wasn't afraid to break the rules to protect his reputation and power. When his career, wealth, and reputation, which he had worked hard to build over many years, were threatened, some investigators think he chose to act in the coldest way possible to protect them all. The exact details of what happened are still unknown, but there are theories that Harrison used his large network of contacts to avoid leaving any evidence that could be used against him. If the crime really happened, the alleged events didn't resemble the chaotic picture that is often painted. Instead, they were planned and carried out with the precision and composure of someone who knew the stakes. At first, the investigation focused on the day-to-day operations of gold and silver pawn. But as the puzzle pieces started to fit together, strange transactions and connections to questionable people began to reveal a much bigger picture, a complicated web of manipulation and subterfuge. The investigation quickly turned its attention to a key question: who really? Investigators say the witness is thought to have sensitive information that could shake the whole business to its core. The documents he has gathered, according to multiple sources, include proof of activities like money laundering, selling illegal goods, and even financial fraud. They were ready to tell everyone, but someone may have gotten there before them. As the clues became clearer, police started to look into Harrison's financial ties to some of the people involved in the case, said that phone records, emails, and money flows directly linked him to the alleged scheme. Calls made just days before the event made people think that this wasn't a coincidence. At this point, the investigation wasn't just looking into one case, it was looking into how a once admired empire worked as a whole. Each layer of truth that was peeled away from Harrison's public image was more at odds with his friendly on-screen persona. A man who was once loved for his wit, and many people were shocked by the serious accusations against him. He kept denying that he was the target of a smear campaign, but officials said that more and more digital documents, phone records, and transactions that didn't seem right seemed to tell a different story. As people learned more about what might have been going on behind the scenes, the image of the charismatic TV star started to fade, being replaced by a shadowy figure who may have done anything to protect his power and reputation. While the investigation is still going on, one thing is for sure: behind the glamorous exterior of a TV businessman lies a web of secrets that have been kept for years. If the shocking revelations are proven to be true, they could forever change how people see Rick Harrison. From an example of business savvy to the center of one of the most controversial cases of the music decade. One of the most shocking developments in the case happened when, under a lot of pressure in court, Rick Harrison made a shocking confession that shocked both the public and the investigators. Harrison admitted to a shocking act behind closed doors that showed the worst side of the former TV star. Even though his testimony was at first vague and lacking in detail, his admission alone sent shock waves through the legal community and the public. To many, it wasn't just a mistake, but a sign of a level of evil that went far beyond what had been shown. Harrison's confession was more than just one act. It seemed to be part of a larger picture, a carefully woven web of activities. The investigation has gone deeper into new areas, including the alleged staging of a murder to silence a witness and a number of actions that seem to be serious violations. The new information has completely destroyed Harrison's image in the eyes of his fans. He is no longer seen as the smart, funny, and knowledgeable antiques pawnbroker he played on screen. Instead, the public has to face a much harsher reality. According to authorities, evidence suggests that Harrison used his power and money to take advantage of weak people and do things that were only rumored to happen. The woman involved is still unknown, but she is thought to be part of a series of cases that have not been reported before. While the details of the case are still being looked into, authorities have confirmed that this is not an isolated incident but the tip of the iceberg. What shocked many people the most wasn't the behavior itself, but how casually Harrison talked about it, as if it were nothing. The confession made people and investigators look again at Harrison's whole empire. The gold and silver pawn shop that had been the center of the Pawn Star show was now thought to be a front for shady activities. Business deals that had once been seen as signs of great business sense were now being looked at with suspicion and legal scrutiny. More worryingly, the confession was a turning point in the case. It not only widened the scope of the investigation, but it also led to new charges, but also helped prosecutors see a pattern of behavior in which power, money, and fame were used to hide the truth and do shady things in the shadows. People who used to admire Harrison and see him as a loving father and a dedicated businessman are now faced with a hard take truth. How could someone who was seen as honest on TV have kept such dark secrets? Pawn Stars used to show a warm image of family tradition and knowledge, but now a series of horrifying scandals are tarnishing that image. The confession is a big surprise for the case and for the faith of millions of people who watch the show. And this might not be the last surprise. As investigators continue to look into Harrison's past, more and more evidence and data comes to light. People no longer see him the way they did before, but through a much darker lens, as a man who used everything he had, even the most holy things, for his own gain. As the investigation went deeper, more and more secrets were revealed. Harrison wasn't just a TV businessman. He seemed to have been involved in a number of shady activities that shocked a lot of people. It was the confession of a character called the $100 woman that officially destroyed Rick's public image. For many, Harrison was once a symbol of the American dream, a self-made man and a beloved TV star, but after the revelations, that image seemed to have turned into a testament to the bad side of fame, power, and greed. As the police's investigation grew, they learned that Harrison was more than just a good businessman. For years, he had cultivated and maintained the image of a model man who loved his family, worked hard, and lived a decent life. But behind that facade lie a series of shady, even seriously unethical, actions. The big question is how he was able to hide all of this for so long. The cover-up wasn't just about avoiding the public eye. It was a planned effort to hide the truth. Rick Harrison is the owner of a pawn shop and is also said to be in charge of a complex web of shady activities that go beyond his work on TV. To keep his power and wealth, he seems to have used everything at his disposal, such as media influence, powerful relationships, and even some questionable methods. As a regular on the popular reality show Pawn Stars, Harrison is able to control his public image. Pawn Stars is more than just a show about buying and selling antiques. Although viewers are interested in the process of negotiating prices and learning about the history of the items, they don't know that there may be many untold stories going on behind the scenes. The incident has had an effect on more than just Harrison. The pawn industry, which was brought back to life by the TV show, is now being looked at with skepticism by the public. Local news outlets are starting to wonder if other pawn shops are doing illegal things, like people who used to rush to buy rare items are now hesitant, which has hurt sales and broken trust. Many stores have tried to change how they do business to be more open and follow the law more closely. But the damage to their reputation and trust will take a long time to heal. The scandal has also caused a lot of people to talk about reality TV culture and the moral standards that come with fame. Rick Harrison was once thought of as a reality TV stars like Harrison Ford were smart, charming, and able to convince viewers with their closeness. But behind their success was a carefully crafted script that included everything from the dialogue to the performance to create the most perfect image. When the truth came out, viewers started to wonder how much of the show was real and how much was just acting. The incident had an effect that went far beyond a single show. People who used to admire Harrison now felt let down, and they're questioning not only him, but also the industry behind the celebrity TV stars have been hit with a lot of negative attention lately, including the Pawn Stars series, which used to be the pride of the History Channel. The show has been affected by the scandal surrounding Rick Harrison, and while the network hasn't said anything official about ending it, reports say it's thinking about what to do next. Viewership has started to drop, and some sponsors have stopped working with the channel until the results of the investigation are known. The decision to suspend Pawn Stars indefinitely has caused a lot of different reactions. For many loyal viewers, the show is linked to family memories, everyday stories, skillful negotiations, and the excitement of finding valuable antiques. But now, serious scandals surrounding the main character, Rick Harrison, have cast a shadow over Pawn Stars. Many fans are disappointed, but they still choose to watch the show because it's a habit they can't break. Others have turned their backs on the show completely, believing that when the image of a TV entrepreneur that used to stand for hard work, honesty, and success is now linked to allegations of wrongdoing, manipulation, and breaking the law, the image loses its original value. Rick Harrison, who used to be the face of Pawn Stars, is now in the middle of a huge scandal. For more than a decade, he has been seen by millions of viewers every week as the model of a successful entrepreneur who started from nothing. But new information has made people suspicious of him. About his alleged wrongdoing have severely damaged that image. People are starting to wonder how much of the Rick Harrison story is true, and how much of the on-air drama is just a front to hide the complicated truths behind it. Rick was once a beloved icon, but now he is facing a series of serious accusations, and the public has replaced their admiration with doubt and disappointment. The scandal has affected many more people than just Harrison. It has raised questions about the whole reality TV industry. There is less and less difference between reality and drama in this genre. If a character like Rick, who is portrayed as honest and trustworthy, can keep such controversial details hidden for years, how many other reality stars are living in two different worlds? The case has changed how people see Rick Harrison. He is no longer seen as the smart negotiator or the friendly pawnbroker. Instead, Rick is seen as an example of the bad side of fame, where money and power can hide the truth and make fans easily swayed by the History Channel is having both an image crisis and a branding problem. Pawn Stars used to be a big hit for the network, but now the show's future is less certain than ever. The pause is both a strategic move and a reflection of how cautiously the network responds to public pressure and uncertain information. For Rick Harrison, the pause of Pawn Stars could be the end of his once famous TV career. The show that made him famous has now shown dark sides that are hard to hide. To erase, and the story of Rick Harrison has gone from being a symbol of the American dream to a lesson in fame, trust, and the difference between reality and TV. With all the crimes he has been charged with, from lying and manipulating to serious crimes, his image in the public eye has completely fallen apart. The man who was once praised as a TV star, a smart businessman, and a family icon is now just known for scandal and betrayal. His legacy has been ruined beyond repair, and what this video, which was once about the American dream, has turned into a warning about the dangers of reality TV, where truth and reality are sometimes changed to create an ideal image. Thanks for watching. If you found the information useful, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos.